Marathon Meeples Top 100 Games, 10 to 1. Alright guys, we have made it to our top 10 of 100 games. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can go back and watch some of our replayability reviews and some of our other top 10 lists.
Okay, finally top 10. It's taken a long time to get here.
Absolutely.
Number 10, Spirit Island. Love this game. Not very good at this game. I always kind of get invaded. You're basically a spirit or a number of spirits, and you're trying to ward off incoming invaders who just want to take over your land. This is a great co-op game. It's a great solo game too. But it comes with a bunch of little plastic minis. You set down your board. You have a bunch of character cards. They've added a number of expansions with a bunch of different spirits. Every game is different. You're trying to basically do the same flow of actions, but how you're going to get there is different every time. There's boatloads of replayability, tons of stuff in the box. I think if you're into co-op games or even just you're building out your collection, you're like, I want something that I can just play a number of times.
Yeah.
This is where you want to be.
Absolutely. Coming in at number 9, single digits, is Crystal Palace. This is a game that I feel does not get enough limelight. It is a fantastic game, and theme and colors fit the period of time the game is set in, but that might be kind of one of the reasons people don't jump on it. It has an older school art style, but you have so many different things to do each time. You are bidding with your dice to see what turn order is going to be and how much can you pay for your workers. So in the end, it is a worker placement game. You are taking over certain actions, but every game is going to play differently based on the inventors that come out, the inventions that come out, and how you choose to play your game.
Yeah, it's dice placement where you're bidding with your workers. So you have a set number of workers at the start of the game. Money is tight in this game too, so you don't want to just be willy-nilly bidding all day. So you just basically pay for the number of pips. So if I have a 6 power worker, and then you get to choose your actions. This game, I heard it didn't sell all that well, that the designer has actually gone on BGG with an expansion they were eventually going to put out. And he just put it up as a print and play. So I guess it is the general art style that made people kind of think twice, but there's a great game here. And one thing I really like about this game, it has this modular board. It's based on player count, you're going to be flipping it. And I think there's like 9 different little areas or 8 or 9 different areas that you actually play. And depending on your player count, you just flip the board over and it's okay. There's only this many action spaces here for 2 to 3. Here's this for 4 to 5. So the game's finely tuned. There are some more powerful cards than others in there, but that kind of keeps it interesting. The bidding mechanic is great. The component quality is good. I just love it. Number 8, Cerebra, The Inside World. This is another really
under the radar game.
Under the radar game. So we originally got this game at the Niagara Board Game Con, and it was like the last round. It just come out that year, and we got it used. We got a good price on it. But I remember I was like kind of hemming and hawing at it because of the weight. The weight on this game is like 4.2, and I think maybe that's why it just really isn't as popular as this is complex. You have to put some time into learning how to just generally play it to begin with, and then to play it well. I think it plays better at lower player counts. It kind of uses the world, or at least something similar to the Inside Out Disney Pixar movie, right?
Absolutely. So in the game, there are 2 different forces. There's gloom and there are bliss, and you have a variety of emotion codes that you are trying to play down for area control. And the neat part is, in every round, there's different styles of area control that you are trying to accomplish. So there's little challenges and goals that change because they're variable. So every game you play, the order of them is going to be different. You have individual goals you are trying to meet as well. And in the end, you are building up this tower at the middle of the board based on which force ends up winning for that round. So it's really cool. It's dynamic, has amazing table presence, and there are all expansions out for it now as well.
Yeah, I think this game is there's so much to do in it, but it's so well done. The playtesting on this must have been insane.
Absolutely.
But they nailed it. So, love this game. If you're into complex games, or you really just want to learn a more complex game, I'd recommend getting this. You can have it for 50 some odd bucks, and you get look at the size of this box. There's tons of stuff in here. I definitely think this is worth getting into if you want that more complex experience at lower player counts.
Absolutely. If you're willing to invest some time, Cerebra's one for the books. Coming in at number 7 is Food Chain Magnate. So the artwork on this game is bland.
Clip art.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Like literally,
clip art.
you have really cool meeples, really colorful meeples. So that's a little bit fun. The colors on the cards are muted. So this is not a game you are buying for a wow factor. But the gameplay is there. You are running your own food chain, and you have to do everything from hiring workers to marketing to bringing out the food, cooking it, and you have to hire all these people. So there are so many things going on, and you can only do so many based on the employees you have and how much you can afford to pay. And early on in the game, wow, is that money tight? The first few games you don't play with milestones, but as the milestones start coming out, wow, do they direct your game.
Yeah, I think this is such a good game in here. It's a splatter game, so you're going to pay Lacerda level prices, but you're not going to get that kind of level in components, and that's okay because this is all about the gameplay. The one thing I would say about Food Chain Magnate is it's a very cutthroat game, so you have to be willing to do that, which is kind of funny because we're not really cutthroat game players, but I think you like the business theme that you're willing to go for it.
I love the theme of this game, and I know he always gets mad at me whenever I say I'm a business teacher, but if I could convince my students to play this, I would find a way to work this into every class, but I'm pretty sure it would never end well. A cutthroat game in a kid's classroom.
So one thing I would recommend if you play this if you're just learning, ask people at the table, what are my first couple moves? Because the one thing about this game is you kind of have like this general build up at the start and you have a flow that you have to do, and then it's kind of open season from there. But an experienced player is almost always going to beat a new player, especially if they don't kind of let them in on how the game works. So as you keep getting better at the game, you kind of unlock more and more things to do in it. But that would be my one thing. Or if you have played this before and you're just like, oh, that wasn't for me because I was sitting around, I got trounced. You have to play with the right group for this one.
And you have to play it a few times.
Yes.
You have to, I would say, by the third game, if you're not liking it, okay, but you need to get probably to that third game to say that this is really a game for you.
Yeah, I would think on most of the games that we've covered so far on our list are games that are going to get better as they go on, thus kind of like our Marathon Meeples replayability motto. Number 6, Rococo. This one is in shrink because we had the old version with the old art. This has been reprinted at a far higher cost, but with probably just about as good art, but better component quality from Eagle Griffin Games. So in Rococo, you are making dresses. And yes, fellow non-dressmakers out there, such as myself, not a very interesting theme, but I think the gameplay is great, and you kind of talked me into this one.
Absolutely. I was so excited for it. So it's based on Baroque France kind of theming, and they've done an amazing job with the new components, but I loved the old components. It was more kind of darker, more muted colors, but it went out of print, and Happy Pockets over here decided it was the appropriate time to sell it. It was a game that he had to promise he would get back in, and as you can see, it was only recently brought back in. Otherwise, that shrink would be ripped off, and I would be celebrating. Coming in at number 5 is Vinos. So this is another Vita Lacerda game, and we live in wine country. So this was our first Vita Lacerda, and I love it. I love the theme. I love the exporting versus selling it. The market is amazing, and this edition has both the 2010 and the 2016 game. And though you would think that there was only some small changes, I truly believe that gameplay is completely different in the way you play it. So we played the first side, I want to say, the 2016 side, I want to say for at least 2 to 3 years
I would think,
before we finally decided that we should loan the other side. And it was as if we had another entire game in the box.
Yeah, this is actually a reprint, as she's discussed in the 2 different versions. We almost bought the 2010 version way back when at a con for like $20, and obviously this edition was more. I feel like our list is getting a little expensive here the last few games. I think we're now looking around. Well, we have one more expensive game, then we start dialing it back down to a more reasonable rate. But I love this version that we got because we were lucky enough to get the Kickstarter edition later on, and it comes with all your little custom wine bottles.
Yes.
And the little houses that you can put the people in, the vineyard estates. So from a component standpoint, quality, the art is great. The actual included expansions that come in there are pretty good, especially some that give you different experts. So there's a lot of game in there with the 2-sided boards. The components are great, and if you're kind of into wine or that kind of general kind of like culinary culture, it's a good add to the collection.
Coming in at number 4 is Patchwork, a more reasonably priced game in this section of our list. This is a fabulous 2-player game. We got it early on, and it is a game that has traveled all over the place with us. We take the pieces out, put them in a plastic baggie. We have photocopied the actual boards so that we wouldn't wreck them, and we take it everywhere. It's a fantastic game to teach anybody who stops by, for a coffee. Really low learning curve on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a quilt. You're trying to fill up your quilt with all the different patches out there. You're using buttons as your economy. You kind of have this little rondelle system where you're kind of going around to grab the pieces. I'm trying to make sure she doesn't get the pieces that help her. She's trying to do the same with me. You're timing these extra little pieces you get for free if you meet if you go far enough down the chain. So for a light game with light rules, there's still enough thinky in there to kind of scratch that itch. And now there's like 15 editions of this. There's like Patchwork USA, Patchwork Halloween, Patchwork Christmas, Patchwork. There's so many different versions that it's not going to be difficult for you to find like that one version that fits your kind of thematic likes.
And I think it's also an amazing gift game because it's approachable to anybody. You don't have to be a gamer to be able to do a polynomial puzzle.
Number 3 is Cloudspire. Cloudspire is a tower defense game where you are playing one or more factions depending on what kind of style you're playing. You're basically just trying to go to your opponent's front gate, tear it down. They're trying to do the same thing to you. You're going to put up towers along the way to block them. You're going to send out different minions. You have heroes that kind of break rules that can go all around. Sounds complex. It is complex.
Yes, but it comes with various modes to play, so you can play 1 versus 1, you can play co-op or solo, and they come with separate books that tell you exactly how to set up the game. As well, they come with phenomenal lore and stories about the characters. That's an example of the different neoprene mats that come in the game. So you get a lot in this game. But you also have well-developed and thought-through gameplay. So it's not just a wonderful-looking game. There's a lot of design that has gone in, and all the factions are asymmetrical, so they play completely differently.
There's lots of different games. I would say this is very much kind of like Cerebra, that it's a time investment in terms of just having to learn how all the different factions play, all the different rules. This game's rules can be a little bit more convoluted than most in terms of just there's so many different things. There is now a new 2nd edition. We have the 1st edition with the update pack, and the update pack I think was much needed because it helped kind of streamline how to play for newer players. So this is going to take you some time to get into, but once you get into it, it's hard to get out of it because we've played a ton of this. We've put in about 40 hours in the base box, and we're still, I don't know, are we halfway through or maybe halfway through, but we haven't even, and this is just the solo scenarios which we play together as kind of a co-op. We haven't even touched the 8 to 10, 12, however many there are co-op scenarios. Right. So there's a ton of game in this box. They've added a couple expansions. The component quality is great. We've gone camping with it. Absolutely.
We've packed this thing up.
Which is heavy, which was
and smart. Played it in a screen tent for a weekend, and it was amazing. Because the components are heavy, high quality, and the cards are waterproof, so you are good to go. And the rule books are also waterproof. So if it crisis came and rain came through our tent, we were still good to go.
So yeah, if you want to get into a system out of pretty much anything we've covered on all these videos, I would recommend Cerebra or Cloudspire. You can dive into those.
And you can spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, you'll be there for weeks, months.
Coming in at number 2 is Viticulture. Now I know you're probably thinking another wine game. Yes, again, I love the theme, but this game done by Stonemaier Games is fantastic. It's a great introduction to worker placement in my eyes. It was one of our first worker placement games, and there's just so much variety in the different types of cards that you use throughout the game, from season cards to auto cards to the actual visitor cards themselves. So not only are you going to get blocked out of action, so you have to do something different, but you can constantly find a new way to play.
Yeah, I feel like there's a ton of variety in the base box. The expansions are great. There's just, you're going to play a different game every time out. It doesn't overstay its welcome. There's enough there that we've played this, I don't know, 50 times at this point. But we can also teach it to people relatively quickly.
Yes.
And it's almost like that first introduction to worker placement. People are like, ooh. But there's enough there to come back to again and again and again as well.
Yeah, and we do have the version, and we bought the Tuscany edition. So that was before the Viticulture Essential Edition. So we have a number of expansions that come in the Essential box now.
Yeah, the Essential Edition, if you're just picking this system up, it's one of the better values in all of board gaming, I think.
Absolutely. Check out the Essential Edition of Viticulture.
And our number 1 game is Grand Austria Hotel. I love this game. It's my number 1 on my list. It was your number 1 on your list. I'll give it to you because it was your number 1 plus.
Absolutely. I am in love with this game. We predominantly play it at 2 players. And I think its sweet spot is 2 or 3 players. And I would never turn down a game at those player counts. At 4 players, it's going to depend on that group, because this game can get affected by analysis paralysis just because of the way turn order goes, but it is a dice drafting game where you are drafting dice to get certain resources and to fulfill different skills. And you are getting different visitors to your cafe. You need to feed them before you can put them in a hotel room to keep them happy. So when we got this game, both of us were working in hotels, so I attracted to the theme immediately. But there's amazing gameplay in this box, and I love the dice drafting mechanism because it changes every game. You may need a 1 or a 2, and you may be completely out of luck and have to do something totally different. So our scores vary greatly, I find.
Yeah, this one, I feel, of a lot of the games on our list, this one has like slowly climbed up. When we first got this, used at a con, a little beat up, and still a little beat up now. It was, I don't even know what the BGG rank was. It was almost starting to go on clearance. People weren't buying it. It was up in like the 300s. I don't know where it sits now. It's definitely in the top 100. But it's just kind of slowly after the years, it's just kind of keeps creeping up. That top whatever game at BGG keeps going up. I think it's just kind of generally word of mouth, because a lower player count game, there's the dice drafting mechanic is so good in this. There's so many unique cards to do. Even though you're flipping rooms and you're trying to fill rooms every time in orders, what you're going to do every single time is so drastically different.
Yeah. And the special power codes to change it. So there are staff codes that you can buy, and they are going to change based on what you randomly draw, but that can change your entire style of play for that game.
Yeah, I find that this hits the sweet spot of like how long a game is, which for 2 players, it's like 45, 50 minutes, and just how many good decisions you have to make. Like, it's just like, it never overstays its welcome. It's crunchy, but it's never too crunchy.
Right.
You have to make those decisions. Everything just fits together in a nice little, I don't know, like, what do they have in these games? Quiches, or not quiches?
Strudels.
Strudels. They fit together. Quiche. Where am I getting quiche from?
I don't know.
They fit together as a nice little strudel and glass of wine, I guess. And it has wine in it.
Wine,
3
coffee,
games here.
wine, coffee, strudel, and tort. How can you go wrong, really? But at the end of the day, I think this game hit that number 1 spot because you always have something to do. There's no area control. And I think that a big part of it is You always feel like you're successful because you're filling rooms. You have some things that are completely independently yours, but yet there is still interaction because of that drafting. So it's that blend of, self-success and interaction. We've now finished our top 100 games. I hope that you have enjoyed our series and found some new games that you want to check out. If you want to watch any of our other videos, we do top 10s, replayability reviews, definitely hit that subscribe button, and we hope to see you soon.